Hey, this is Sarah with Precision Camera in Austin, Texas. Today I am out at R.O.C Austin Studios. There's a beautiful car behind me that is not mine, unfortunately. This Mercedes is from Retro Motors in Waxahachie, Texas. But most importantly, the reason we're here is because I have the brand new Panasonic Lumix S1 and we're gonna test it out. Today I'm shooting with the S1, but as you probably already know, there are two full-frame cameras coming out, the S1 and the S1r. The main difference here is going to be the resolution. The camera I'm shooting with today has a 24.2 full-frame megapixel sensor. The S1r has a 47.1 megapixel sensor. Because of the sensor resolution, this can do a little bit better in low light. It goes up to 51,200. The S1r is going to go up to 25,600. Both cameras feature a high-resolution composite mode that takes 8 frames and combines them into one image. Because this is a 24 megapixel sensor, we're looking at a 96 megapixel composite image. On the S1r, you get a 187 megapixel composite image. That is huge. But today, we're gonna be shooting with the S1, and I just have to say, out of the gate, this camera is so thoughtfully designed. The buttons are just put in the perfect position. Now, I will say, this is a huge camera. This is a big camera. This is the size of SLRs. It reminds me of professional full-frame SLRs from the likes of Canon and Nikon. But I think that having the conversation about the size of this camera is just, it's a moot point. This is designed to be a professional camera that has the benefits of mirrorless, the speed, the video capabilities, etc. Size is not on the table. If size concerns you, then this camera might not be for you. But the people that are interested in this are not worried about size. This camera shoots up to 9 frames per second in full res. You can, however, put it into 6K or 4K photo mode. We find these modes in some of Panasonic's other Micro Four Thirds cameras. 6K photo mode allows for 30 frames per second of 18 megapixel images instead of the full 24 megapixel images. What's really cool about the 6K photo mode is that it shoots a whole array of photos, and then upon review, you can pick the frame you want from all of the frames you shot and save that as the image. This camera has 225 contrast detection autofocus points, but where the autofocus really shines is the speed. It uses what's called depth from defocus technology that can read communication between the lens and the sensor up to 480 frames per second. This camera has 5-axis image stabilization. When combined with lenses that have image stabilization, like we find in some of the Micro Four Thirds cameras, it uses what's called dual IS2, and you can actually get up to 6 full stops of image stabilization. A really cool feature on this camera is called the IS scope. It actually shows you how shaky you are. I feel like it could be a really, really fun game. This camera also does really beautiful slow motion. It records up to 180 frames per second in full HD at 30 frames per second and renders it in camera for you, resulting in amazing slow motion footage. The S1 comes body only, or you can get it in a kit with the brand new 24-105 f4. Now, something that's really cool about this lens is that it's a macro. It actually does 1:2 macro. It can focus up to 11.8 inches away from your subject. This camera is fully weather sealed. It has an articulating screen that articulates horizontally and vertically. It has microphone input, headphone jack, USB-C, it has HDMI. It also has 2 card slots, SD and XQD. Another awesome, thoughtful little thing about this camera is that the back buttons light up. There's a button here on the top that lights up the screen, but it also lights up the important buttons on the back, so if you're working in the dark, you can still see what you're doing. I wish every camera did this. Not only is the speed of the autofocus fantastic, but the tracking capabilities are really, really good. This has facial recognition that works really well in stills and in video. Another really cool thing about this camera is they give you a lot of different aspect ratios to work with. They give you the normal stuff like 3:4, 2:3, 1:1, 16:9, but they also give you 65:24 and 2:1 for nice panoramic images. Now, I mentioned that this camera goes up to 51,200, and no offense to Panasonic, but low light was kind of a struggle with some of their Micro Four Thirds cameras. That is not the case with this camera. The high ISOs are beautiful and clean. It's amazing. Overall, I think this camera is absolutely fantastic. They really just did everything right. The way the ergonomics are set up, the image quality, just so many thoughtful little features as you dig through the redesigned menu. It's a fantastic camera, and I just cannot wait to see how they grow this new system.